know it's been a while since the Royal Rumble alright, but I'm still sulking. Chris Jericho should have been the highlight of the Rumble. Jericho and Owens' feud should be the highlight tonight. It's for a title, which not many things on the card are, and their whole story and rivalry and means for Payback was just more organic, and it's been a much longer build than everything else. The promo artwork for Jericho's Payback immediately caught my eye. I think it's the nicest piece of the lot. So there's one grumbling straight off the bat. Next, we've got the whole Booker T, David Otunga situation. Do we need Otunga to come back? Do we need Booker T to be here? The only thing he contributes is going when somebody hits a move, and then occasionally going beautiful, and then just waffling shit, and then just repeating that cycle. If the WWE need to fill that quality quota, why can't they just give Otunga a mic backstage, and then we're not having to deal with him all the time? I didn't bother with the kickoff show, I'm afraid, so I was going to go straight into the main show. And just to spit in the face of my desires a little bit more, Jericho and Owens starts the show off. Jericho runs Owens at the start, and then Owens tries to just headlock him to death for the duration of the match. Jericho gets the walls of Jericho locked in, and Owens manages to save himself with that same fingertip. Jericho takes huge exception to this, drags Owens outside, sticks his hand behind the steps and just boots him and tries to mangle his hand. Owens got away with a thumb to the eye and we all thought it was over there, but then Jericho got the walls back on, and Owens had no choice but to tap. I'm pretty sure nobody expected that, with Jericho leaving for Fozzy touring soon. Highly entertaining match, the crowd were very invested, and although I thought it should be the main event, considering it's for one of the titles, and the other matches aren't, still a really nice way to open the show, especially with the whole Payback theme. In typical WWE fashion, we're one match into the pay-per-view, and we get a 10-minute promo for the WWE Network, and then Fake Tits Bella shows about 3 inches of her ass to the kids. Oh, and they also advertise the Shop Zone deals as well. Austin Aries and Neville put on a brilliant showing for the Cruiserweights. Aries backed Neville into a corner, and the only option that Neville had to keep his belt was to grab the referee and shove him to the ground, otherwise Neville was going to tap. We get a nice little Backlash promo. Well, I say Backlash promo, it's mostly for Nakamura. Shinsuke is going to be having his first match at the pay-per-view, so everyone's looking forward to that, myself included. And then we see a really stiff, hard-hitting, nasty, rough match between Cesaro and the Hardy Boys. Sheamus booted Jeff Hardy in the face and he knocked a tooth out, but fair play to Jeff, he just really didn't seem bothered by it. Fair play to Matt, taking White Noise off the second. That did not look like it was going to end well. Sheamus thought that he'd finish Matt off, but Jeff got the blind tag and hit Sheamus with a swanton for the win. After the match, everyone looks like they're being good sports. Sheamus and Cesaro shake hands with Matt and Jeff, and then as Matt and Jeff are celebrating, Cesaro run back in and just battered the absolute piss out of them both. Which, yep, nice one. I like both heel Sheamus and Cesaro, so good move. Bayley versus Alexa Bliss was a good showing for the girls too. Bayley was in her hometown, so it didn't look great, and Alexa dropped her with her DDT. The match itself didn't have anything to write home about necessarily, apart from it just being good in all areas. It was just better than anything involving Charlotte and Sasha, so just proving that there's more options when you want to show off some good women's wrestling. And now, before we get into this, here's a little lesson from me to you Americans. 2 R's next to each other in this, right? Horror. Horror. House of Horrors. Not House of Whores. What's this one? Right? Come on, Americans, say it along with me. What's this word? No, it's not. It's squirrel, not squirrel. Squirrel. One more. What's this? Go on, can you see where it's going now? No, wrong again. Mirror. Mirror. Not mirror, not Frank fucking Mirror. Mirror. Now that that pet peeve's out of the way, let's just go through this tragedy of a match, if I could even call it a match. I think my biggest bit of beef with this is they just took themselves way too seriously. They tried to make it look like a big Hollywood high-budget thing, or at least a serious horror film, and it came off just lame as fuck. They had so many options and they missed so many tricks, and in the end all that happened was Randy would go into one room, he'd have a scuffle with Bray, they'd split up, he'd have to chase after him, and then we just did the same thing over and over. Alright, there was a room where there was some dolls, some baby noises, that was a little bit creepy, but they just did that twice. Oh, and there was a tractor that drove backwards outside, which just reminded me of one of those haunted house ghost train things you go on as a kid. After they finished all the pre-film things, for some reason Bray gets in a car and goes back to the arena. You try and get over this ability to teleport, why didn't you just have him beat Randy down, trap him under the refrigerator like he did, and the next thing we know, they're both in the ring, instead of some silly roundabout method of getting there with a limousine. It's just, fucking loads of tricks missed there. So while Bray's got his feet up on the way to the arena, we move on to a match between Samoa Joe and Seth Rollins. It was a great match between them. Again, nothing amazing happened, but there was nothing wrong with it. Seth selling that knee like Dolph Ziggler's trying to get his job, Christ. But I suppose since Dolph's a heel now, he's not punching himself in the leg to wake his own leg back up like Rollins did for 20 minutes in this match. And instead of seeing Seth's new finish, he sneaked a roll up on Joe, which obviously surprised the shit out of him. So one's to assume this feud isn't over yet. And now back onto this monstrosity of a match. Bray Wyatt arrives and he stumbles to the arena of the ring. Then when his lights come on, yeah, obviously Orton's already behind him, with a chair. They fight some more, it looks like Orton's gonna win, but then the Singh brothers appear, distract Randy for a bit, Bray fails to hit Sister Abigail, Orton hits an RKO and it looks like it's done there, but then Jinder Mahal himself appears. He beats down Orton with that belt, then Orton eats a Sister Abigail, and Bray wins for nothing. He's just proven nothing, really. It was all filler, no killer. Sorry, lads. Main event time now, Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns for nothing other than Vince McMahon's personal masturbatory amusement, I'm guessing. To be honest, the crowd were well into the match. They were split 50-50, so at least people were engaged. Roman sold a dead left arm for about 10 minutes until he injured his ribs, and then he used that arm to nurse his ribs. He gave Braun all he had, but Braun hit him with 2 running power slams and got the victory. After the match, Braun butchered Roman some more. He grabbed the steel steps, which the crowd were chanting yes, yes, yes. He started beating Roman in the guts with it, and then Roman started coughing up blood. All the trainers surrounded him, and the crowd were rough. They chanted, "Thank you, Strowman," and then as Reigns was being carried out, still coughing blood, he got the old "you deserve it" chant. Obviously not the direction that they wanted this to go, but I suppose that's what happens when you try and piss into the wind. Overall, it wasn't a bad show. There was a couple of surprises, like Jericho winning, the Hardys retaining, and then there were a couple of stinkers, like the House of Horrors and the Strowman-Reigns match. It didn't really go anywhere. I think they should have actually incorporated Roman and Strowman into the House of Horrors. The House of Horrors had no purpose, it was just there. I think a better idea would have been in the middle of the House of Horrors match, Roman and Strowman start, they smash the shit out of each other in the house, then after 15 to 20 minutes of their pre-filmed fight, the house collapses around them, and the show's ended. We wonder what's happened. We have to tune in next week to find out. Seriously, someone should pay me to write this shit. I'd at least put more than 10 minutes worth of effort into it. And that's enough out of me for the time being. If you'd like to ask me questions or leave me abuse, I can be found on Twitter @BluntDamage. If you'd like to comment on the video, you can follow the link in the description to the Botchamania site and do so there. And while you're on the site, you can check out 10 quality years of Botchamania, obviously, the entire backlog of my Raw rant, going all the way back to my written work, /walls of text, Vinny's midweek wrestling write-ups, and a shit ton more great stuff on the site to keep you busy. And last but not least, if you like my theme music, the band are The Colour Fire, and they can be found at www.thecolourfire.com, and their digital store links can be found in my description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.